what else do I take pictures of? I'm getting a little bit tired. I can't wait for it to be over. So what's the deal? When I used to be a videographer, I would surprise people whenever I would tell them that I actually hate taking photographs. I think to a lot of people, photography and video go hand in hand, so if you like one, you kind of like the other. But for me, at least, it really wasn't the case. And even though I knew that I didn't really like taking photographs, I didn't really have a good way of articulating it. Like, why do I actually hate taking photographs? What is it about photography that I just can't stand? I mean, I always liked doing video, and photography is pretty similar. And then even now as a graphic designer, I use photography all the time. Now I might have finally figured out an answer, but I want to talk about that a little bit later in the video. For now, I want to talk about this challenge. Typically, the things that you don't want to do are the things that you need to do. So I figured, well, if I hate photography, the only thing left to do is to just really give it a shot and see what happens. So I decided to take on a small challenge of taking a photograph every day for a month. Through this challenge, will I end up loving photography, or will I still hate it at the end of it? Will I become a great photographer, or will my photography look exactly the same as it did when it started? I don't know. The only thing left to do is to try and see what happens. So first off, I need to take at least one photograph every single day for the month. I can take those photographs using my phone or my camera. It doesn't really matter. I just need to take a photograph using something. And since I'm a graphic designer, what I want to do is I want to take the photographs that I take at the very end of the project. I want to sift through them, pick out a few, and then make some designs using those photographs. My plan is to do a couple different check-ins throughout the month just to kind of see how I'm feeling and what I'm thinking. And now the only thing left to do is to get to it. So let's get started. Alrighty. It has now officially been 1 week since I started this challenge. And I gotta say, it is much harder than I was anticipating. Like, I'm already a week in and I'm already thinking, like, what else do I take pictures of? Now, that's the first hard aspect of this challenge. The second one is just trying to change the way that I think about photography, because right now I've noticed that I tend to approach photography through the lens that, oh, I'm gonna use this in a design. So I'm already trying to create photography that I might want to use in a design, rather than trying to approach this as a strictly photography-based challenge. So I guess you could say it's more of my perspective of photography, how I'm taking the photos, because I feel like I'm not earnestly taking photography in the way that most people would, because I'm like, oh, well, I have to use it in design, so I want to have like this kind of photography or something like that. And while I don't think that's necessarily wrong and that I can't do that, but I also want to make sure that I'm trying to approach this as a photography first project, like actually taking photographs that might actually be good instead of trying to make them weird and abstract in a way that I would want to use them in my own graphic design stuff. But other than that, I feel like I've been doing okay. Like, the photos that I've taken so far, I don't think are great, but maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something interesting. Not really sure. I'm still trying to get better at looking for opportunities to take photos. Like yesterday, I noticed that it had rained, and so there was puddles on the ground, and I was like, oh, hey, I could take some photographs of the reflections in the puddles. Maybe that would be interesting. So I think that's like a good example of just like finding those opportunities to take photos that are different from what I already have and might push my creativity in a different way. So I did come up with a bunch of, I guess, experiments that I want to try out with photography. Like, oh, well, what if I do this to the lens? Or what if I take photos through this thing? So I have a list of those that I want to test out at some point. I don't have a list of things that I want to photograph, just those types of experiments. So I want to be able to really experiment with the medium and see what I can make whenever I'm trying to approach this how I might approach graphic design, which is, how can I take this thing that people normally do and do it in a different way? But I feel like that at least gives me something new to try out, something different to do. And it also just makes me feel a little bit more excited about this project, rather than, oh, well, I just gotta take some photographs of some flowers, or, whatever it is. And I think that's making this project, or at least makes it sound a little bit more exciting. So that's where I'm at currently. We're on week 1, so still got a long way to go. So I'll see you in the next one. Alrighty, so we finally made it past the halfway point. So yesterday was the 14th, today's the 15th, so we're pretty much almost there, which is actually perfect news for me because I'm getting a little bit tired of having to take photos every single day. While I feel like I'm getting better at spotting opportunities to take photos, I still feel like it feels more like a chore than it does something fun. I think one of the things that's made it a little bit easier is I've started to incorporate some of the experiments that I mentioned in my last update. Like there was one where I put saran wrap in front of the lens and then took pictures, which honestly had some really cool effects that I'm actually pretty excited about. So I feel like one of the things that I'm really struggling with is to find subjects that I find interesting to take pictures of, but I feel like incorporating the experiments makes it a little bit more exciting and fun. So I feel like maybe that's the aspect, and that's what I'm trying to do more of, so that way I feel more inclined to take photographs. So while I'm still struggling to figure out what I want to photograph on any single day, I feel like it's a little bit easier whenever I incorporate these experiments, because it kind of gives me something to do and to try out. You know, it feels a little bit better than, I guess I'm going to go take pictures of a flower again. But I think at this point, I'm really starting to formulate an idea why I don't really like doing photography, why I kind of hate it so much. And I think part of it goes into what I've learned through doing my little experiment. So hopefully I'll have a more refined version of it by the time we end this project. I also wanted to mention it because I haven't talked about it before, is that I'm taking photographs using this camera right here. It's just a Sony a6-300 with a Canon FD 50mm. It's a older lens. I bought it a long time ago and I've never really used it that much, but I also do use this camera that I'm filming with, the A7S III sometimes. So I've been switching between the two. So some of the photos might look like they're from the A6-300 and some from the A7S III. So there's going to be some differentiation there. And also this lens is fixed and this lens is a zoom. I think having both of those variables makes it kind of exciting, maybe more complicated. I don't really know, but at least it gives me something different to play with every day. But that's enough yapping for me, so I guess I'll see you in another week. Hi, I'm filming this on the floor because I couldn't think of a better place to film, and I'm tired. It's been just over 3 weeks since I started this challenge, and I can't wait for it to be over. I know it's not like I'm doing anything super crazy, but with everything else that I've got going on in my life, this is just another thing that I've got to do. And I keep running out of ideas to take photos with. Maybe there will be a day or two whenever something pops into my head, but otherwise I'm just kind of struggling to look for things to take photographs of that I haven't already done before, or at least a different technique or something new to try out, so it's not the exact same thing each and every time. I mentioned this before, but it also doesn't help that I pretty much never leave my house, so there's only so many things you can take a photo of in or around your house. So after you've done that, it's like, well, where do I go next? I have gone out a couple of times in the past week, but I didn't really have my camera with me, so I just had to use my phone, which that's fine because that's still a way to take photographs if that's all you got. But it just kind of sucks because it definitely would have been better if I had my cameras with me. So I guess maybe the moral of the story is always have your cameras with you? I don't know. At any rate, I'm still doing my best to find things to take photos of, at least new ways to take photographs. And I think that's kind of the thing that I find most exciting, is just like, how can I take a photograph in a new way that I haven't done before that might give some results that are different or uncontrollable? I think that's kind of where I've landed. I like doing that a lot more than just, here's a pretty photo, but I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. So anyways, before I get into my final thoughts about this challenge and this process and how I think about photography, I do want to talk about what I mentioned in the beginning of the video, which is why I don't like taking photographs and why I just don't like photography in general. So let's talk about it. Why do I hate photography? I'd love to tell you that I have a perfect answer to this, but really, even today, I'm not really 100% sure. That being said, I do have a couple of ideas. Now, let's start off with the most practical one, which is, as a videographer, I'm just used to being able to move around in space or record something that's actually going on. So coming from a background in videography and trying to move into photography, it feels really constraining, because what I want to do is I want to move around. I want to take the camera and push it in or pull it out or move it to the side, or I want to see someone doing something. And whenever you're doing photography, you're only capturing a single moment. And for me, it just feels really constraining and annoying. So that would be the practical reason why I don't like photography. But what about artistically? Whenever I see photography, it can be really well composed, great colors, great composition, whatever you want to talk about, it can be expertly done and look like a great photograph. But to me, it's still just a photograph. Really what you're doing is just capturing what you see, which is fine. But for me, the way that I like to interact with art is being able to do different things with it, being able to interact with it And for photography, really what it comes down to is just capturing the moment. And that's why whenever I was going through this challenge, one of the things that I did enjoy about photography was the experiments, trying out different things, seeing how I can bend, blur, or break the photography in order to get some unique results. But whenever I wasn't doing that and I was just looking for something interesting to take photographs of, it just felt kind of boring. How I might describe it is like art being a conversation. There's a push and pull. You get to say something and you get to listen to something at the same time. But with photography, often it just kind of seems like you're just doing a lot of the listening in. You're not able to actually contribute to that conversation because what you're doing is just setting up your camera and taking the shot. But for me, what I want to see on the other end of the camera is them having some kind of perspective or interest or something to say other than just capturing that moment. I think a great example of a photographer who does this is Olga Karlovac. Her work is beautiful, haunting, and unique. She utilizes motion blur or long exposure photographs in order to get some really interesting results. If she wasn't using that technique, I'm sure her photographs would still be good, but what makes them really great and unique is that extra perspective that she put into the art that she's making. She's imposing some of her own creativity into the process, which makes it different and unique, and for me, actually worth enjoying. And so that leads me to today. So I can say, even though I went through this challenge and I really did give it a try, I just don't really like doing photography. That hasn't really changed much for me. But like I said, I did enjoy the experiments that I did. I feel like that's something that I might want to explore in the future, taking my camera and seeing how I can distort the images that I'm getting and create something that is unique and interesting. But when it comes to your average photography, just kind of finding a subject and taking a photograph of it, not so much. But I am still really glad that I got to try out this challenge because now I can actually say full-heartedly that I just don't really like photography, and I actually tried to make myself like photography. But on the other end of things, I got to try something new and learn something new about myself that I didn't know before. And I now have some new skills and ideas that I can incorporate into my work in the future. So I don't know, maybe I'll pick up my camera and start experimenting with it, or maybe not. But until then, I'm just gonna stick with design. And speaking of design, there's one last thing that we need to do before I can end this challenge, which is to make a poster design using some of the photographs that I've taken over the month. So let's get to it. But before we get into making any of the actual designs, I just quickly wanted to mention that I opened up a store where I'm selling merch designs, as well as some poster designs, some design assets. So if that's something that you're interested in and you want to support me, I'd appreciate it if you would go check that out. Link in the description. So for this project, I actually had 3 designs in mind. I thought only doing one wouldn't really do this project justice, just because I took so many different photos and there's some different emotions and feelings that I think whenever I see some of them, and I want to be able to explore each and every one of them. So this very first one that I'm working on was really just me trying to capture a snapshot of what I'm looking at on a day-to-day basis. I liked how the photography had some kinetic energy because of the motion blur, and I feel like that's kind of how we see everyday life. We're usually not sitting still looking at things, we're usually moving, going somewhere, doing something, and so I feel like for this poster design, that's really what this was. It was a quick snapshot of what it's like to kind of be me, at least from this perspective of going out and doing things and being active. I wanted this one to be a little bit more positive and uplifting. So for that reason, I went with a white background, and I'm choosing more vibrant and colorful photos because that's going to make it feel a little bit more lively and energetic. And that's what I want this one to feel like. Now for the second design, I knew I had to do something that was grungy. Anyone who's familiar with my work will know that I do a lot of grunge work, and so it would be weird if I didn't try to do at least one that was something kind of grungy. And so for this one, I really wanted to play with texturing and blowing out some of the photography that I took to see if I could get some interesting results, as well as trying to come up with a cool composition that I like. I really liked using this image of the shower head and kind of offsetting it and then adding some photography into it as well. I wasn't really sure exactly where I wanted to go with it or exactly what I was going to do with it, but I just had this rough idea, and so really I just started exploring it and seeing what I could come up with. And for the third and final design, I wanted to explore some of the more typographic posters that I've been doing recently, a little bit more Swiss design, I guess you could say. And for me, I was really excited to use these blurry, out of focus images that I took. I just think they're really cool, and it's something that I've been using in my work anyways. So I think it was interesting to be able to do that, but with my own photography this time. The idea that popped into my head was forgotten memories. Like, these are hazy memories that you can just barely remember. You can kind of think about them, but you can't really think of concrete details. And that's kind of what these pictures kind of remind me of. So I wanted to go for a more nostalgic feel. And really, this design was mostly just focused on the typographic layout as well as the layout of the images. So it's not as interesting or as exciting as maybe the other two, but I still really enjoyed making it and being able to explore the layouts for this design. So I spent another day or two working on these, and this is where I ended up. Of course, they're going to be a little bit different, but probably not too much different from where we left off. Honestly, it was a lot of fun using my own photography to make these designs. Just because I'm so used to using other people's photography, I feel like I was able to think a little bit ahead and create photography for myself that works perfectly well with the designs that I like to make. Now, I wouldn't say any of these designs are particularly the best thing I've ever made or the most exciting, but they were fun to work on, and I think they came out pretty cool. One of the things I do really like about these poster designs is they do kind of encapsulate a little bit of everything that I do. There's some grunge, there's some just general poster design, there's some typography, some Swiss design, some layout design, and so I just kind of got to do a little bit of everything that I love with photography that I did. And with that, we're not only done with this challenge, but we're done with these poster designs. Really, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It took a lot of effort to make, not only just the time of taking the photos, but also doing all the B-roll, editing the photos, making these poster designs. So this was a pretty big project for me. If nothing else, I hope it inspires you to take a look at some of the things that you haven't done before and just give it a try. So don't be afraid to try something new and get a little bit uncomfortable. But if you did like this video, I have a lot of other videos on my channel that you can check out. If you like what you see, I'd appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next video.